In this video, we'll go over the steps to update your Streets project configuration. Now, why would you need to do this? What frequently happens at the beginning of a Streets project is you create your project, you send out the project configuration to field crews. They inevitably find things that you didn't account for during the project planning phase. Ideally, you would not have to make changes, but sometimes you do. And oftentimes it's worthwhile to make those changes if it can help the crews in the field be more efficient or capture work or characteristics that might help advance your project objectives. So there are a couple things that you may want to consider before you decide to update a project configuration when your project's in progress. One of those is where you're at with your current inventory. If you are at the beginning, and I'm opening up my input record screen here where I've only collected 10 trees, that's not a bad place to make changes. If I had several hundred trees or thousands of trees and I was changing or adding a condition code, it would make all the previous records collected irrelevant or of less value because that change would not have been available for those records. So those are things that you have to keep in mind. Sometimes it might be too late to make a change. The other thing is coordination. So it requires some coordination if you have many people out in the field, because they will then have to pull in this new project configuration so that they have that change that you're making on the desktop available. So let's just quickly walk through a scenario. Let's say if we were changing our project to add in the option of noting if a tree had a multi-stem. So we would go back to Input, Data Fields. This is where we originally set up the project configuration parameters. And perhaps we want to put that option under the other two. So we have the other one that we were using for risk assessment. We will now have to go back to the main records panel and toggle on other two, and then we can set up the options there. And for demonstration purposes, all I'm going to do is have one option so that the crew can denote that the tree is multi-stem. Select OK, and I'll do a File, Save Project. So that's only the first step. So what we need to do is go back to Tools, Work with Mobile, and we're now going to submit this updated configuration to the server. So Submit Project Configuration. So we're not going to select any of these records. We're just sending the configuration to the field. So I'll hit Next, and we have to again give it our password, and we'll select Finish. So we've completed the second part of the process. We've submitted the data from the desktop to the server. Now the next step would be for the field crews, and this is where the coordination and communication is important. You are going to have your field crews reload the project configuration. They're going to be pulling in that updated configuration from the server, overwriting the forms that they currently have cached in their browser on their devices. So you want to make sure that they submit any field data, tree data that they have on that device before doing this, because they will lose that when you reload the configuration. So here I have my device, and what I will do is open up the email after that was just submitted, and that's the link. So now I have this updated link that was just submitted. It's the same link that was originally submitted. So you don't even have to go back to that link, but what you need to do is to reload the configuration. We'll show you how to do that in a second. Sign on. Now up at the top, the gear-like icon is for settings. So this is where we can go find the option to reload the project. So we'll select that. It will warn us. If you have any unsubmitted data, you are going to lose it. We'll proceed. So we reloaded in that updated project configuration. I'll select the back arrow to get back to the main screen, and then you can continue on with data collection. And I will just go through rather quickly to try to get to the point where I can show you to verify where that option is now available for the multi-stem. So when we finally get to the management form, we can see now that we have this option available for multi-stem. So if this tree was a multi-stem, we could select this. So it's a good idea, if possible, to remind your crews to check, let them know what was changed. If you're adding new streets, if you're adding new species, verify that that's available. Reloading pulls in that updated configuration from the server to the device. So that's the process for updating your project configuration when you have to make changes while the project is in progress. Hopefully you do not have to do that too often, as it does become a bit challenging to try to manage, especially when you're working with many people.